Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to their episode of Canucks Conversation, brought to you by Wendy's. Frozen pucks are awesome when they're in the back of the other guy's net, but that doesn't mean that you'd want to eat one, and that's why Wendy's only ever uses fresh Canadian beef that's never seen the inside of a freezer in all of their burgers. Whether you order a Baconator, Dave Single, or even a JBC, you'll only ever find real fresh beef that's juicy and loaded with fresh toppings. So download the Wendy's app, check out the latest deals, and order a burger that's only job is being delicious. David Quadrelli alongside Harmon Dial. It's a big episode once again of Canucks Conversation. Harmon, someone tweeted at me, and I want to give the person credit, so let me go look in my Twitter notifications here, because someone tweeted at me and said Quad's on his way. Yeah, Quad's on his way when he gets another chance to rip PLD, because Harmon, Pierre-Luc Dubois, has been traded from those LA Kings to the Washington Capitals, and it is a 1-for-1 trade. We see the tweet on screen here from our man Frank Saravalli. Pierre-Luc Dubois for goaltender Darcy Kemper in a 1-for-1 trade, and of course all the jokes and it's fitting too, because this is the CapFriendly episode. So now the team that owns CapFriendly and supposedly bought CapFriendly so that people wouldn't be able to go look at PL Dubois' contract anymore, this is who we're talking about on this episode, on the CapFriendly farewell episode of Canuck Conversation.
Yeah, I mean, what's with NHL teams giving help to teams that are in distress? I mean, I don't even understand what Washington is trying to do, right? They're simultaneously trying to stay competitive, but they have such an aging core. They have some bad contracts. Like Tom Wilson's 8-year, $6.5 million per season extension hasn't even kicked in yet, for example. They don't really have much in the way of high-end prospects. It's almost like they're committing to mediocrity forever, which I guess seems kind of fitting when you look at Dubois' career relative to expectations to this point. Sort of fits the mantra there. But there's that, and then there's also the San Jose Sharks picking up Barclay Goodrow off waivers, a fourth-line player who, he was good in the Eastern Conference Final, but he makes around $3.5 million, and Mike Gur's just like, yep, I'll take that off your hands, no problem.
People pointing out the old connection there as well, right? Like there's, this is still an old boys club at the end of the day, no matter what. I also should have mentioned Jacob Lazar, who I've been friends with for a while. I've known him for a while. He's our producer today. I always call him Lazare, always. That's how his name's spelled. It's Lazar. It's Lazar. I've got it. Jacob is our guest producer.
You butchered it yesterday, and I had to remind you, Lazar like Curtis, but thank you for getting it right today. I do appreciate that.
And then I even told you, I'm like, just so you know, I like Lazare more, and I had to tell you that. So yeah,
I've been called Laser quite a bit as well. So
Laser's cool. I could go with Laser. Do you prefer Laser?
No, not particularly, but you can call me whatever you need to call me.
Fantastic. Jacob is our guest producer again today, as he was yesterday on our emergency episode of Canucks Conversation. We're not going to touch too much on Filip Hronek today. He spoke today. Shocker. Didn't say very much, but he did say more than he did at his season end availability. So we'll briefly chat about that stuff. And Alvin spoke again yesterday, and also a shocker, he also didn't say very much. Both of these guys are very excited to get this contract done. No real surprise there. We'll talk about the extension. We'll get into it in our poll question. And later in the show, folks, we're not doing anyone else today. We're going to be doing the CapFriendly farewell. So we've pulled, I don't know, how many do we end up having, Jacob? Like 10, 12? I don't know how many we had, but
I think including yours, we got 11 or 12.
Nice.
So quite a few.
So Harmon and I made one as well, but we used the CapFriendly lineup builder tool to come in. And Harmon, I think you're really going to like mine. I'm just going to say that. I think you're really, really going to like mine. I've seen it. Oh, and you like it. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
I won't spoil it.
People can already guess where I'm going with this. But this Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, it wasn't the only trade in the NHL today. Let's talk about the other ones that happened. Our opening segment today is brought to you by our friends over at Four Winds Brewing. More specifically, it's brought to you by the Four Winds Featherweight IPA. If you're looking for a nice hoppy beer but still want something light and flavorful, then look no further than the Four Winds Featherweight IPA. At just 4.5%, this incredibly light IPA is packed full of tropical and citrusy goodness. Available now at liquor stores across BC or through the Four Winds online shop for home delivery anywhere in BC at fourwindsbrewing.ca. Flavorful while still being light at just 4.5%. That is the Four Winds Featherweight IPA. Go check them out. Locally owned and operated in Delta. Karan's wrong. He said for sure Quads has PLD in his CapFriendly. I don't have that overrated scrub in my CapFriendly. He's not even overrated anymore. It feels like everybody caught up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was right before everybody else. And now finally everybody catches up. What else is new? It's going to be just like that when you look at my lineup at the end of the show, Harm. Anything else you want to say about PLD? Because obviously there's some other traits to get into as well.
Well, I was just curious to get your take on the Darcy Camper angle of it, because there's a guy that lost his starter's job in Washington this year. He just turned 34 years old. He has 3 years left at a $4.5 million cap hit. So it's not like he is on a great contract either. It's clearly an undesirable one that the Caps wanted to get rid of. But on the other hand, I'm looking at how much better the Kings defend compared to the Capitals. And my initial thought is that Kemper should be able to bounce back within the Kings system. But you're a goalie guy, so I want to hear what you think.
Okay, I'm not even doing a bit here. I promise I'm not doing the bit. But the first thing that came to mind is that Washington has two really good AHL goaltenders. One of those is Clay Stevenson. I'm not even doing a bit. I'm not doing a bit. In my mind, Washington is moving out what they view as their backup goaltender, an overpaid backup at that, and trading for a guy that once had a pretty high pedigree and is basically a lottery ticket, right? They're basically moving off that money for an expensive backup where they think, like, I have no doubt they think that Clay or the other guys that they have in the system down in Hershey can back up next year. I'm only pointing out Clay, of course, because you know how I am. I love my Clay Stevenson hype, but they also have like Hunter Shepard is the guy out in Hershey. So we'll see what they do next year, but they have the goaltending depth. That's the first thing that comes to mind is they don't need Darcy Kemper is basically the first thing that comes to mind. They don't need him. So in my mind, it's a team that is basically just getting a lottery ticket with Pierre-Luc Dubois and hoping that maybe he can bounce back, maybe he can become something. And Harmon, like, let's not forget, we're talking about mediocrity. Their sole purpose as an organization is to get Alex Ovechkin that goals record, right? Like that's what they're doing right now. They're not trying to win the cup next year. They are trying to get Alex Ovechkin that all-time goals record, right? Pierre-Luc Dubois becomes their best center with this trade. He does. He might suck, but he's still their best center.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan Strome probably had a better year than him this past year, so it's debatable. But yeah, I can see Dubois next season maybe bouncing back and outperforming Strome. I was asking more from LA's standpoint. Like, are they going to take on Kemper and he's going to excel as their starter, or is he still going to have ups and downs and LA's still going to be looking at Kemper as an inefficient contract?
God, I don't know, man. Like Kemper's played well in good systems, right? So I think there's that. I think there's always that aspect. And what did I say? Like last week we were talking about this, about trading for goaltenders and how you don't know how a guy's going to fit in your system. Ultimately, I look at this from LA's perspective as, oh my gosh, someone took PLD off our hands. This is awesome. Like this is great news for us. This 1/3 buyout thing, this is the other interesting angle in all of this with Edmonton going to 7 games, which is crazy that this is even a conversation. And do you have a full understanding of that? Because I don't think I fully have it. Like, I think I need to go do some more research before I start talking about it. Do you understand this 1/3 buyout deadline and everything and how the Oilers are affecting all this?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact dates, but essentially Dubois will turn 1 year older, and if the buyout window is basically, if he turns 1 year older before the buyout window opens, then he's subject to a buyout where the team would still be on the hook for 2/3 of his contract as opposed to 1/3. So if LA wanted to buy him out, they would have been hoping for a quick cup final so that Dubois would still be, I believe, 25 years old, and therefore the Kings would only be on the hook for 1/3 of his remaining contract.
Yes, because the buyout, and hey, getting this from CapFriendly, the buyout period begins later of June 15th or 48 after the Stanley Cup final ends. And of course, it's June 19th and we are heading to game 6. So it's really, really interesting that this is all kind of being taken into consideration. And I wonder if things are different if this was a sweep or it ended in 5 games. I wonder if things would be different and we don't end up seeing a trade today. I don't think it's a coincidence. I certainly don't think it's a coincidence that this trade comes a day after Edmonton wins that game 5. So yeah, on PLD, from the Kings perspective, sorry, just to bring it back to that, it's a fine move. I think Darcy Kemper is going to get as good, if not better, results than Cam Talbot did for them, right? I also think Darcy Kemper has more ability to play in the playoffs. Like, the thing with LA is they didn't have, and I want to choose my words carefully. Like, I really do want to choose my words carefully here, but ultimately, at the end of the day, Cam Talbot's great for the regular season, but in the playoffs, when things naturally get tougher, and you have this great system that starts to get holes poked in it during the playoffs in a 7-game series, at some point you need a goaltender who can just go out and steal you a couple, right? And ultimately, Cam Talbot wasn't that for them. So I look at Darcy Kemper as an upgrade, but ultimately, like, if it was Jack Campbell going the other way, and maybe he's not an upgrade, like, I don't think it matters too much from the LA perspective. I think they're just happy to get off PLD's money.
For sure, but Kemper's utility does matter just because you're still paying him $4.5 million per year.
He's going to start. I think he's going to start next year.
I mean, they have to with the money that they're committing. But the point I was just trying to make is, it's not like you're by getting off Dubois' contract now that they gain the full $8.5 million in cap space. It's reduced because of having to take Kemper back, and that's why this trade was worth it just to get him off the books anyway. But it'll look a lot better if Kemper can then also come in and be a steady starter.
I mean, look what he did 2 years ago in Colorado, right? Like, that's what I was trying to get at with the system stuff, is you don't know how anyone's going to work out in a more structured system. And look, Colorado and LA don't play the same way, but they are similar defensive environments in terms of the amount of chances they give up, where they're giving up chances from. It is similar in that way. So I am really curious. What Kemper does next year, but I think it's a great bet for LA. It's a great bet. It's a great trade. I think. But anyways, we've talked way too long about this, and I've hardly even ripped on PLD. So we'll wrap that there. No more PLD talk. Are you good there?
Yeah, I'm good there.
Okay. Jacob Markstrom goes to the New Jersey Devils for Kevin Ball and a first-round pick. Your thoughts on that trade?
I'll keep this short and sweet. I love this for New Jersey. Even ahead of the deadline, I wrote a piece with Max Baltman at The Athletic looking at perfect fits at the deadline that we wanted to see. And we had Markstrom going to New Jersey. I look at the Devils as a team that, they need to defend better, but their goaltenders also couldn't bail them out with saves when they needed them. Vanacek was awful. Schmid didn't take the next step. And Markstrom especially, what I like about the fit with him in New Jersey is we talk about environment. How are you going to fit in a specific team's defensive structure? Markstrom has a history of succeeding in high tempo environments where, okay, maybe your team is a little bit loose defensively and they can give up some rush chances, right? Like, he was great in Vancouver where the 2019-20 team, they would give up a fair bit. The Canucks like to generate offense, but they weren't very stingy defensively. Even this past season, the Flames moving away from Daryl Sutter, they gave up a lot more shots and chances than they did in the previous year. And Markstrom was terrific this season. So I think, of course, the Devils are going to want to tighten things up defensively to some extent. But the point I'm trying to make is the Devils can be average defensively. And I still have confidence that Markstrom can be an above average starter for them, which should go a long way towards reducing the number of goals against that they surrender, which when you look at the offensive firepower that they now have with hopefully better health for Jack Hughes, Timo Meier, etc., they should be poised to take a huge step forward. And really, they didn't give up a whole lot, right? Like, Kevin Ball is like a third pair defenseman, might might have a little bit more upside as a number 4 or 5, but the Devils have a lot of young defensemen, so they don't have to worry or lose sleep about giving him up. And then a 2025 first-round pick, I really believe the Devils are going to bounce back, and that first-round pick is going to be a late first rather than an earlier or mid-first. And ultimately, they didn't have to give up Holtz, a Dawson Mercer, or any of their premium blue-chip assets.
I like that trade a lot for New Jersey. I really do. Markstrom's another interesting one when we look at the philosophy of when you trade for a goaltender, you don't know how they're going to work out in your system, because obviously, and not a trade, they signed him as a free agent. After Vancouver, there was that 1 year in Calgary where you're like, oh my gosh, is Jacob Markstrom ever going to learn how to play in a structured defensive environment? Because Calgary was pretty good defensively in that first year. And obviously it was the complete opposite in Vancouver. Like, Markstrom was the goalie during the absolute worst of the Canucks defensive abilities. So that was really funny, that first year being like, oh my gosh, is he ever going to learn? And he did. He adapted his game, so credit to him. And that's ultimately why I think he's going to have success in New Jersey, and ultimately why I also really like this trade for the New Jersey Devils. Okay, we're not going to talk about it for too long, but Filip Hronek signed an extension yesterday. If you haven't already, folks, go listen to our emergency episode. If you hadn't got a chance to listen to the emergency episode, both of us really like this contract. And the thing that I pointed out yesterday, and that I'll point out again, Harm, is that July 1st is only a couple weeks away. The draft is next week. That's the craziest thing. Like, we still have game 6. We might have game 7, and the draft is next week. So we'll have a draft episode with Dave Hall. We've got a lot of stuff on the draft from Dave Hall at CanucksArmy.com. So go check that out. But everything's happening so fast. So with free agency, the thing that I'm kind of saying here is, on July 1, those contracts that are going to be signed are going to surprise a lot of people. And I'm going to point them out. I'm going to point them out on July 1st. We're doing 5 shows that week, folks. We're going to be here every day, July 1st through 5th. We'll be here and we'll be looking at those overpaid contracts. And I think it's a good contract right now, and it has the potential to look like a really great contract in terms of what the rest of the market is getting in about 2 weeks' time.
To me, it's a fair contract. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's a really great contract, but it's fair. Plus the timing of it for the Canucks to get it done this far in advance of the draft, when a lot of times these RFA negotiations, especially for a player who has our arbitration rights, has that leverage. Those negotiations can go deep. So for them to get this business done this early, to have cost certainty about what their exact cap situation looks like, to know that, all right, we've for sure got another top 4 defender in the fold for next season, it just helps so much for planning purposes. And that's why I think this is ultimately a tidy piece of business for the Canucks.
Tidy piece of business. I love it. We said it on this show. Another tidy piece of business for the Abbotsford Canucks just got announced. Abbotsford Canucks have signed Chase Waters to a 2-year AHL contract. The Abbotsford captain, friend of the show. We're going to have Chase Waters on the show. We got to have Chase Waters on the show. He's also a really fun interview. So Chase Waters, 2-year contract, $225,000 per year. That's courtesy of Rick Dollywall. So yeah, little piece of news there. Chase
Mark
Waters.
Friedman too.
Oh yeah, we forgot about Mark Friedman. Yeah, Mark Friedman. Did you see the J-Fresh card of Mark Friedman?
I haven't.
Model breaking Mark Friedman is what, and that's what J-Fresh called him. He's got like a 89% wins above replacement or something like that. And he's 100% for penalties. Like he draws more penalties in the minutes he's given than anyone else in the NHL. So he's a model breaker is what J-Fresh called him. It's really funny looking at his card. Like his card looks like Quinn Hughes' card almost. And it's really, really funny. But anyways.
The one thing I'll say about Friedman is he is such a good soldier. I've seen him around the rink a ton, around the locker room, even more so because he's been a healthy scratch so often. And so, for example, in Nashville, we were in press row at Bridgestone Arena in the first round of the playoffs, and Mark Friedman was literally behind me and Drance in the row up, watching in the same sort of press box layout that the Preds have. And so because of that, you get to see what a player's demeanor is, how their body language, how they react to not playing a ton. And I'll say this, every time I've seen Mark Friedman, he's always been such a supportive teammate. He's never pouted, never slouched about boy, I haven't played in several months. Genuinely, like you could hear him just like when the Canucks would just miss a chance, you'd hear him right behind the road, just like so jacked up, so excited. Or like when the Canucks drew a penalty, he'd be going nuts. And it's just like that type of positive, infectious attitude is what you need from some of your defensemen, because it's hard to sit out that many games and to even wrestle with. You're practicing and doing those extra skates. It's a mental battle. And I think Friedman has really embraced the importance of being a good teammate and being a good locker room presence despite not playing a lot, which I think definitely factors into him earning that extension.
Yeah, I love Mark Friedman. He's great. He's been everything you just said. He was really good. We did a story with him at Canucks Army. He's a Christmas baby. So yeah, we did a fun story with him on that. It was a lot of fun. Okay, let's get to our poll question, which is all about Filip Hronek, Harm. Our poll question is brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. We're keeping it simple. How do you feel about Filip Hronek's new contract? Love it, like it, meh, and hate it. So far, 66.8% say they like it, 16.2% say they love it, 15.9% say meh, and 1.1% say they hate it. They hate this contract for Filip Hronek. I like it, and I gave you the take moments ago. Has the potential to be one that you love, I think, in a couple weeks when those free agency contracts come out.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the like it category, and I'm glad that won by a massive landslide.
Always a good poll when one of the answers lives or wins by a massive landslide, but that's how I designed
What's the right take?
That's the right take. It's the right take. That's the way to look at it. That was our poll question, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. Again, that is VANBONUS when you sign up for an account on Bet365. Okay, we've got a few things to get to, Harm. First of all, before the CapFriendly thing, I want to give a shout out to one of our newest sponsors, the Vancouver Bandits. They're coming aboard, and we are very excited to have them. The Bandits are back in action this year in the Canadian Elite Basketball League and are off to a great start to the season. Playing out of the Langley Event Center, the Bandits have 4 home games in the next 2 weeks. The Bandits welcome Ottawa for the Indigenous Celebration game this Saturday, June 22nd, and on June 29th, catch the Bandits against Edmonton in the Filipino Heritage game. And on Canada Day, Monday, July 1st, the Bandits will wear a limited edition Terry Fox-inspired jersey in support of cancer research. Tickets start at just $20 to get your hands on yours, and for more info, go to thebandits.ca. I got to get out to a Bandits game. That'd be a lot of fun. Go to a Bandits game. I've never been, but that's fun.
I just want to say that's a sick domain name, thebandits.ca.
It's
Fire.
so sick that when I read the script, I actually typed it in to make sure that I wasn't being punked, because that's awesome. That is such a great name. I love that. So shout out to the Bandits, man. Bandits,
and I can say I've been to a couple of those Bandits games. Pretty good basketball too. Like you get some former NBA guys in there, guys that played pro in Europe. And the atmosphere actually, like it's getting close to what the Seas have. Another one of our sponsors there, but great atmosphere, fun time in the summer if you're looking for some sporting events to get out to. Absolutely.
Hell yeah, check them out. Home games. 4 home games in the next 2 weeks. We won't be able to make the July 1st one, I could tell you that. But it's a good time for me to tell you about our plans on July 1st, which we're still kind of working out, but I'll be live. Harmon's going to be busy. You might stop in. You might stop in for 5-10 minutes maybe to give your take on who the Canucks end up signing on July 1. It's going to be a busy July 1. We know that. And then all week long, July 1st through 5th, we will be doing shows every day of the week. So we'll have tons of content for you on that free agency week. So ramping it back up. We've been doing 3 shows a week. Might even not do a show on Friday this week because we did an emergency yesterday. There's probably not going to be much to talk about in the next couple days, but knock on wood, of course. But free agency show is going to be going live probably at 2:00 on July 1st. So you can look for that on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. We're going to have various people popping in. I don't really know exactly who's going to pop in, but I'll be hosting that show. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to free agency. So check it out, folks. Make sure you're here on July 1 with us. And then go to the Bandits game. There you go. There's your whole candidate. I just planned it for you. No problem. Okay. Before we get to the cap-friendly farewell, I want to talk about the Daily Face-Off free agency special, because we've got other plans on July 1st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's early. That's earlier than our show. Join Tyler Remchuk, NHL insider Frank Saravalli, former NHLers Carter Hutton and Colby Cohen, and our friends from all over the league for 3 hours of nonstop action as they dive deep into the madness of free agency. They'll be breaking down every trade, discussing the impact on teams, predicting the future of the free agents, and giving you the inside scoop on all the wheeling and dealings happening around the league. Catch all the action live on July 1st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. The Daily Face-Off Live free agency special that you won't want to miss. Also, my script says trade. It's the signings. There might be some trades, but mostly signings on that day. So we'll have to fix that. But yes, the free agency special over at Daily Face-Off. Harmon, we crushed it, by the way, on the parlay game. I don't know if you knew this. Our parlay game yesterday.
You crushed it. That was
all
that's
you, right. Man. Yeah, you picked Florida. I was all on Edmonton. We're not going to play it again today, but folks, you can go play the game, games.dailyfaceoff.com. Make your picks. I'll probably do it later. I'm riding with Edmonton. I think this goes to 7 games, and I think Edmonton might take it, Harm.
Well, I was gonna say, I wonder how Roberto Luongo feels with a 3-2 lead in the Stanley Cup final with 2 cracks to close it out.
Yeah,
including a Game 7 on home ice.
Buddy, if this does go the other way, also, yeah, I'm not even going to dive into it. I'm just saying, if it does go the other way, if Edmonton takes this, Sergei Bobrovsky can kiss his spot in the Hall of Fame goodbye, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, sorry, Sergey. Let's get to our cap-friendly farewell, which instead of anyone else is what we're doing. And this is going to be a fun segment, folks, so buckle up. We have a lot to get to here. This segment is brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians, who are on the road this week, but back at the Nat for 9 in a row, starting on Tuesday, June 25th. On the 25th, check out the superstar appearance by former Blue Jay Orlando Hudson and fireworks on Thursday, the 27th. School is out, so check out the Nooner at the Nat on Friday, the 28th, and a special Canada Day Nooner on Monday, July 1st. Catch fireworks, giveaways, Friday Nooners, and superstar appearances all summer long. To get your tickets, call 604-872-5232 or go to CanadiansBaseball.com. Okay, Harm, I'm ready for it. Shout out to K-Town Chef, regular listener of the show. I love this. He was the one that gave us the idea for this, so special shout out to him. We had so many responses. We have 12. There was like almost 30, so had to trim it down a little bit to get to as many lineups as we could. But I almost forgot to put K-Town Chefs in there, so apologies to him. But I did get it in there. I realized after I submitted to Jacob, I was like, wait, the guy who gave us this idea made a lineup, and we should definitely include his. So let's go in order with the ones that we saw. Let's start with at Matt Pisco. All of these are on Twitter. Okay. This one is from at Matt Pisco on Twitter. He's got Jake Gensel, Elias Pettersson, and Jonathan Marchessault. I love this lineup, Harm, because when we did this exercise, the thing that people will see on mine is I did struggle a little bit to figure out what to do with the top 6. So I really like this lineup. He's got Brandon Duhaime and Connor Brown as his other signings on the 4th line, and then Podkolzin, Höglander. You can figure out how the middle 6 lines are formed. You've got Miller, you've got Besser, of course, but Gensel and Marchessault to play with Elias Pettersson.
Well, and what we have to keep in mind is some of these lineups, because I mean we didn't specify, but some of these lineups include Ilya Mikheyev. Some of them are assuming that he somehow dealt as a cap dump. That's an important distinction to make. So this is obviously one of the ones which is assuming that the Canucks find a taker for Ilya Mikheyev, which is a substantial assumption. It's far from a guarantee, but that's of course what allows the Canucks to go out and acquire not just one top six forward, but also the second best top 6 forward on the market. Yeah, I mean, I love how the lineup is constructed from a forward standpoint. I love the Duhaime and Brown filling out your 4th line roles. The only part of the roster that I don't love is I think the 3rd pair is too slow. Edmondson and Hakanpää. I think they're both similar guys where they kill penalties well. They're bigger physical bodies, but play them together, and I don't think either one of them can move the puck. I think they're too slow. That's the only, I guess, nitpick I'd have there.
That's fair. That's totally fair. What did he do with? Oh no, there he is. Okay, I thought he got rid of Connor Garland, but no, he's right there. Okay, I had a moment there. So this is the interesting thing because Harm, when we look at a lineup like this, the first question that's going to come to mind is, okay, if you can construct a lineup that looks like this, and hey, it doesn't have to be Edmondson, it doesn't have to be Hakanpää at the bottom of your lineup, but what I'm saying is, if you can go get Gensel and Marchessault, but it costs you a second or first round pick to move Ilya Mikheyev, a high pick. Do you do it?
Probably, but I think if we're being realistic, it's probably bold to assume that you're winning the sweepstakes on both Gensel and Marchessault.
Yeah,
just because there's going to be so much competition, and that's why this is more for fun, more for just more. It is fantasy that we're talking about this because we're assuming all these free agents want to come here, right? And they're going to have, especially the top guys, they're going to have a lot of attractive opportunities. Not all the players are going to want to play in a big Canadian market. That's always the caveat. But yeah, I mean, if put it this way, if paying to get off Mikheyev's contract within reason is able to help land you another top six forward at a contract you like, then yeah, that's probably a bullet that you just have to bite.
Yeah, so we're going to see various ones here that have Mikheyev, some don't. I go back to our conversation a couple of weeks ago where we said there's a chance he bounces back. You're not going to buy him out. And if you're having to give up something significant that could instead be used to improve your team in season, I say you at least start the year with Mikheyev. So you'll see in my lineup that I have Mikheyev in there.
The only other thing I'd point out with this lineup is I don't like the group of penalty killing forwards, right? You're losing Bluger, you're losing Lindholm. So there's your top two guys. Then you're also losing Joshua. So three of your best penalty killing forwards. Now Brown's a great addition. He can absolutely fill one of those roles. He's been excellent on the PK in the Stanley Cup final. But what I wonder is who's your main center? Like who's your first unit PK center? I don't like Suter. I like much more and maybe is like a second unit guy. Don't like Miller for that role. Don't like Oman for that role because Oman can't win draws. I think your PK is a little bit weak in this construction.
As we talk about the PK, I just realized that I forgot to sign Teddy Bluger on my lineup, which I wanted to do. So I forgot to sign Teddy Bluger, but you'll see what I ended up doing. I think I might have some space to sign Bluger, but we'll get to mine after.
I don't think
Let's
you
do
do.
our next one.
That's one of the first things I pointed out. I was like, I won't spoil it, but I was thinking, you have problems without Bluger here.
Okay, we'll get to mine later. Let's get to this next one from Travis Wall, obviously regular listener of the show. He solved the Mikheyev problem by trading for Christian Dvorak. Also solves the 3C problem. They both had an off year and have similar cap hits. You probably have to attach an asset to make a trade like that where Dvorak's coming here, but he's going off the rails a bit here. He's brought in Christian Dvorak to center the third line, and he signed Michael Amadio.
Yeah, Dvorak could be a fascinating bounce back candidate. It obviously hasn't worked out for him in Montreal, but in the past, he has shown the ability to be a solid middle six center. So the idea here is, okay, well, maybe you don't want to attach a sweetener, but Dvorak only has 1 year left on his deal. Maybe he can. You're essentially reallocating the Mikheyev money to a lineup position where you need a little bit more help. And I actually don't mind that idea. So that's smart. That's creative work there. Amadio, I like, is a sort of at that price point, if that's what he ultimately signs for, more of an underrated guy. So I like that third line. Obviously, like Gensel in the mix there too.
Zadorov. He signs Zadorov for the third pair at $5 million. And yeah, like you said, he also has Gensel. Everybody's got Gensel at 9.5, which is great. Everybody's put Gensel at 9.5 or 9.25. That's just so funny. We didn't even tell people to do that. It's just everybody is just assuming Gensel's getting 9.5 and everybody's okay with it. So he's got Gensel at 9.5, Zadorov at $5 million there. Noah Juleson as Nikita Zadorov's D partner.
Yeah. See, I'm torn. I feel like even Zadorov at 5, which isn't the worst number, I'm still torn on whether I'd sign that deal or not, to be totally honest with you. I also don't want Juleson in my top 6, but that's something you can solve down the road.
You can solve it down the road. Okay, let's go to our next one here. This one is from @MillerCrusade on Twitter. He has gone out and got Chandler Stevenson, a cheaper Lindholm replacement, and can play wing and center and kill penalties. Fourth line would kill other teams with the forecheck. The top 9 has Petey, Gensel, Besser, Miller, Joshua, Garland duos. I like this lineup a lot, Harm. I do. He's got Colin Blackwell. He's got Brandon Duhaime. He's got Vasily Podkolzin in there on the fourth line. That is the line that he said would kill other teams on the forecheck. I like this. People not only sent us their lines, but also gave us like an explanation of why they did what they did. And Brendan Dillon as well signed to the third pairing at $3 million.
Yeah, Stevenson would be interesting to me. He's a player that I'm having a tough time like exactly figuring out what he should be worth, just because on the one hand, this is a guy that at his best can put up 60 plus points, can play center, can play wing all over your lineup, kill penalties, was unbelievable during Vegas' Stanley Cup run, but he also took a step back this year, right? 14-point decline. His speed was down according to NHL Edge, which is concerning because that's his best attribute. There's also the question mark of what does he look like away from Mark Stone. Now in this scenario, it's fine because he'd be playing with Miller and Besser, but Stevenson is a wild card, and I just, because of how shallow the center market is, I'm not sure if I'd be willing to pay the price that he's actually going to command. So that I'm a little bit unsure of. But beyond that, yeah, I love the forechecking of that fourth line. Again, I'll point out that I don't want Juleson as my everyday third pair defender. I'd rather have him as my number 7, but I also think Gensel at 9 is a little bit too light. He's going to get more than that, but other than that, pretty solid.
Something that was brought up yesterday by Alvin. We'll keep it quick. I'll keep this really short because we have like 9 to get through. This show's going to go till 4:30 if we go at this pace. So we'll speed up here. But Cole McWard gets the shout out from Patrick Alvin when he was talking about right shot defensemen in the organization. They were very happy with Cole McWard's second half of the season. So again, I saw some people, I think, reading a bit too much into that, saying, oh my gosh, Cole McWard's going to get a shot here. But it's going to be a name to definitely keep an eye on in terms of what he's able to do next year, because Alvin did say they were impressed with his second half of the year. So let's see what he can do next year for the full year, because obviously the first half of the season wasn't great for Cole McWard, and he dealt with injuries, had a few other things going on as well. So interested to see what's going to happen with Cole McWard next year. But he got the shutout from Alvin, so we had to mention it. Let's get to this next one, Harm. Jeff L. Shimon, he gave us a few UFAs to think about. So he attached a 2025 second to move out Mikheyev. He brought back Myers, and then his UFAs, Jake Gensel, Anthony Duclair, Denton Heining, Carrick, Dillon, and Blankenberg. He has $150,000 below the cap. He said the second hurts, but it's better than seeing Mikheyev in the top 6.
Yeah, so first, I wonder if it would cost you a bit more than that to get off Mikheyev. That said, let's start with the positive. I really like the blue line there. Dillon, a lot of these lineups have included Dillon. I think he'd be the perfect fit, especially because he's a player that can play in a second pair role. So you've got insurance there as having a player that can log a bigger role and replace a lot of Zadorov's attributes. I also love the Blankenberg pickup there. I think I would actually have Dillon and Blankenberg as my third pair ahead of Juleson. And I'll explain why later, because Blankenberg's in my lineup as well.
Nice.
But I think Blankenberg has the potential to be a great value pickup. With the forward group, I don't know if I'm a believer on Duclair, just because of at that price point and with the stylistic fit, just because he's more of a rush offensive player, a little bit inconsistent defensively. There's some risk to that. Not saying I hate it, but not sure I love it either. Heinen, I like him a lot, but 2.5 million would be too rich for me. I also think when you look at the history of his last 3 contracts, he hasn't gotten close to 2.5 million. So I like including Heinen, but maybe not at that price point. And yeah, otherwise, pretty solid stuff.
Yeah, I like it. It's a good lineup. And we'll get to some of these names later because they're going to pop up. again here. Let's get to this one from Corey McQuay. Hronek signing didn't change his numbers much. 23, 24. Oh, yeah. Here we go. He's got 400,000 in cap space. Mikheyev for Anderson. 1.5 million retained and a second round pick. It doesn't matter in this scenario. I do believe Mikheyev will ultimately be swapped for another bad contract with longer term and slightly more money, but this is the lineup that he turned in. He also signed Jake Gensel. I don't think we're getting a lineup that doesn't have Jake Gensel on it, and I love that. I love it. Jake Gensel at 9.5 million, and then he's got Josh Anderson on the third line. Teddy Bluger re-signed at 2.2 million, playing on the third line with Connor Garland. You've got Pia Suter playing with Elias Pettersson and Brock Besser. Maybe the centers and that where the wingers are playing doesn't matter too much, but let's focus on who he signed. He got Brendan Dillon as well and Justin Schultz as well.
I don't like Anderson at all. Like watching him in Montreal, he was a disaster, right? He's always been a very one-dimensional guy where he's below average defensively. He doesn't really know how to make plays, but he skates fast and can score. He's also like sometimes he's physical, but he's also not physical consistently enough, maybe in part because of his injury histories. But that Anderson contract is horrible. I would rather keep Mikheyev all day long than roll the dice on Anderson. I also don't think Schultz is signing for that cheap. I like him, and I tried including Schultz in my lineup, but I was thinking about I was like, I initially had him around 1 million, and then I was like, I don't think that's realistic just because he still racked up a fair number of points this season.
Have you considered power forwards take longer to develop?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like Josh Anderson where he is right now in his career would not be far off from the Jake Virtanen experience.
Oh, no, I love that take.
Like a big fast guy that doesn't use his size is not good defensively. It just like has no hockey IQ.
Yeah, Jacob wrote this in our chat. Josh Anderson is PLD with better PR. I like it.
PLD is miles better as a player.
Better PR. He's just got better PR. Okay, this one from Cole Nuck. This next one. He's got Jason Zucker. This is an interesting name that I kind of wrestled with a little bit. He's got Jason Zucker at 2.5 by 2 years. Tyler Myers at 2.5 by 3. Jake Gensel at 9.25 by 7. Zadorov at 5 by 5 with a full no trade. Blankenberg, there he is again, 1.5 times 1. He moved Mikheyev and a second to Utah for Dallas's 2024 sixth round pick. He's got 1.4 million left over with this lineup. He's also promoted Aatu Ratu. Aatu Ratu is ready to play in the NHL here.
Yeah, I like Zucker at that potential price point as another top 9 winger to add.
He's closer to 4 though, man. Like he's gonna make over 3, I think, and I think it's gonna be closer to 4.
Perhaps. I mean, I don't know, just because he's had injury histories coming off a down year. I'm not sure. He might be closer to 4. But other than that, I just say like same critique as one of the first ones where I don't see many penalty killers that have been added among the forward group. So that looks like a problem to me.
Okay, let's get to this one from @Mike_5353. He's got, I gotta look at this one. He's got, who's that?
He's got your boy
Riley Tuff. He's got Riley Tuff on the third line, and then he also signed Brandon Duhaime and Teddy Bluger, but he's got those guys playing below my boy Riley Tuff, or my old boy. Now it's Brett Murray. Brett Murray's now my best friend, but Riley Tuff, he's got there. Brendan Dillon at 3.5 million as well, rounding out the defense there with Noah Juleson. As we see more of these with Noah Juleson as the third pairing guy, I'm really on board with Blankenberg. Like I'm really becoming on board with Blankenberg the way you've talked about him before, and just what I know about the player and what I'm looking at where the Canucks have needs. I would really like to see them sign Blankenberg. I think that'd be a really smart signing. And of course, Riley Tuff. This one though, my only critique: Vasily Podkolzin with JT Miller and Brock Besser. Harmon, do we see? You don't have to give me too much analysis on this one, but I'll ask you this. Do we see Vasily Podkolzin start training camp with JT Miller and Brock Besser? Because that's what happened this past season, and it immediately didn't work, and he got sent down to the minors.
I would hope not. I hope that's not plan A, right? If you run into injuries, then sure. Or if he has a huge summer, but I'm not holding my breath for it. I'm not holding my whatever. I always screw up the sayings and whatever.
Who cares?
Tough to. I know Tuft was probably just in there as a meme for the irony, but if we're being serious, then I do not want him in my top 9 at all.
K-Town Chef, Tufts going from the AHL to the third line. I like it.
I'm sure that was just for the memes.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to this next one. This next one comes to us courtesy of this is a good handle, Vancouver. Yeah, I like this. @Vancouver has this one for us. Jake Gensel at 9.75. Nick Dowd coming back to Vancouver at 1.3. This is one of the ones that hasn't moved out Ilya Mikheyev. So Ilya Mikheyev is on that third line with Dowd and Connor Garland. And then Brandon Duhaime has been signed for $1.3 million. Also, Brendan Dillon at 3.25.
Yeah, my only question would be, what are you paying to acquire Dowd, right? Because he's held in really high regard. Nick Dowd is one of the more underrated centers in the NHL. Just the matchups that he takes on, the defensive results that he drives, killing penalties. He's the perfect bottom 6 defensive specialist. But because of that, I mean, the reported asking price for him around the deadline sounded astronomical to me. So that's what gives me pause.
Yes.
But
And
other
again,
than that,
for those
pretty good.
For those that don't remember, it was a first round pick. They were looking for a first round pick for Nick Dowd by all reports. Okay. At Miles Can 83. And look, I'm reading all these handles out, and I did a read through of all of them before to make sure no one changed their handle to try to dollywall me and get me to read something stupid on air, but that hasn't seemed to happen here. He's got Jake Gensel at $9 million. He's traded for Rickard Rakell at $5 million there. He signed Jake DeBrusk at $5 million. He's promoted Arshdeep Bains, which we didn't even mention the last one had as well. And then Connor Brown has been signed for $2 million to play on that third line. Who else did you sign? Brendan Dillon, and Vincent Desharnais. We got an undercover Oilers fan here giving us all the old Oilers.
Yeah, Rakell, I'd have to do more homework on him. I know he had a down year. No, he battled some injuries. Pittsburgh's probably looking to get off his contract. But again, I need to do my research and homework and make sure that I'm confident he can be a top 6 contributor.
Okay, let's get to this next one from K-Town Chef, who, of course, I said a few times, gave us the idea for this segment, so it's fitting that we actually include his. He also has Jake Gensel. Not one of these didn't have Jake Gensel. Like, we still haven't seen one that didn't include Jake Gensel, which I love. Canucks fans are just assuming that he's here next year, and I love it. 9.25 for Jake Gensel. Then he's got Max Domi at 3.55. Harmon, we're going to focus on Domi, but I'll read out the rest. Connor Brown as well, Kevin Stenlund, Brendan Dillon, and Oliver Shillington. You brought up Shillington yesterday as well, which I thought was interesting. Let's focus on Domi and let's focus on Shillington here. Domi at 3.55 to play with JT Miller and Brock Besser. I think I like that fit purely based on vibes. I think that'd be a good fit. I like Max Domi. What do you think of Max Domi in that spot, and then Shillington as well?
Yeah, so the contract number for him is decent there. I do wonder if he's going to get more than that though, just because teams have a lot of money now. But I'd have to think about that more, because part of me thinks, okay, with his tenacity, with his ability to win battles, that he'd excel. But also, this is like worry about him defensively, because I think what you sort of need out of that left winger is, like, that line is going to, for instance, in the playoffs, they got the McDavid matchup. Can you trust Domi in that role? I'm not certain about that. I'd need to really think about it. So off the top of my head, I can't give a strong yes or no about that. Shillington I love that. Like, just straight up, if he ends up hitting the market and is available for a number like that, you should be all over it if you're the Canucks. Again, he could have top 4 upside.
What about switching Domi and Gensel in that lineup? Like, Domi would go to Elias Pettersson's line and Gensel would go with Miller and Besser.
Do you trust Höglander and Domi defensively on the same line?
Well, that's my point, is what are their matchups, right? Like,
no, you know what? Like, no, PD needs an elite winger. I'm not giving him like, I thought about that again. I'm like, no, he needs an elite winger. He deserves Gensel.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Yep. Okay. Fair enough, Hart. Fair enough. Okay, let's get to this next one. It is from at Ali Ray Jepson on Twitter, and she has put, what do we have here? We've got Jake Gensel. Okay, I don't know about that. That's the first person to have Jake Gensel under 9 million. So maybe some wishful thinking there. But Jake Gensel at 8.35, signed William Carrier at 1.8, Teddy Bluger at 2 million. Ryan Lomberg at 1 million, Tyler Mott at 875,000. That's a great vibe signing. I've thrown that out before. I love the idea of bringing in Tyler Mott. And here's a new name, Dylan DeMello on defense at 4.8 million, and Hayden Fleury as well.
Yeah, so a lot going on here. I would say right off the bat, I like the way that the fourth line was filled out. Lomberg's going to give you physicality. Mott at that number will give you speed, give you penalty killing. Carrier is interesting to me because when he's healthy, he is just a wrecking ball in the forecheck. He drives the net. He can chip into a secondary offense, but he struggled to stay healthy. So I don't know what his price is actually going to be. But if it's at that type of number, he can do what Dakota Joshua did on that third line. So that's fascinating to me. DeMello, I wouldn't pay him nearly 5 million though. Zadorov and DeMello for a combined nearly 10 million. I think there's probably a more efficient way to spend that. I do like Hayden Fleury as a sort of 7th D signing.
Oh, I didn't even notice Zadorov was signed, but yeah, Zadorov there for 5 million. Okay, those are all the fan ones. Are you ready for mine, Harm?
Yeah,
here's mine, folks. Pull it up. There it is. Look at that. Oh my gosh. So I kept Ilya Mikheyev. Ilya Mikheyev's still in this lineup. I signed Jake Gensel for 9.5 million. And then on the fourth line, we've got both. We've got the best of both worlds. Brett Murray, Riley Tuff are the wingers for Nils Amon.
Bad fourth line.
One of those guys is becoming the next Dakota Joshua. Maybe both of them. Tough to say. Probably both of them. You sign them. That's future right there. You're looking at the future. Those guys are going to be the best third liners in the game by January, and everybody's going to look stupid except for me. So Riley Tuff, Brett Murray, both signed in my lineup.
I don't like your lineup, man, especially up front. I don't like that fourth line.
Make a good point about penalty killers.
That fourth line, none of them have established themselves as everyday NHL players. And with a completely healthy line, you're relying on all three of them to play 82 games for you.
Future. Dude, I'm looking in the future ball and telling you that Riley Tuff and Brett Murray are both
Rick Tocchet would trust that line to play like 5 minutes a night.
Yeah, in October, but in January that line's getting hard matched.
No, that, and then you have no penalty killing forwards. Right, like who's your first PK unit with the forwards?
Look, I did have some vibes here, but I'll point out Elias Pettersson's killed penalties before. You've got JT Miller who's killed penalties. Ilya Mikheyev can kill penalties. Vasily Podkolzin should be killing penalties, so throw him in there.
No,
and I don't know.
You've
got other guys
falling to 28th in the NHL.
That's a coaching problem.
Right,
I fire the coach. I fire the coach if that happens. Personally, I fire the PK.
I also you've got Noah Juleson in your everyday lineup. Like,
I want to change that. I want to reverse that because we brought up some good names. So I don't have.
Plus, you're relying on both Podkolzin and Mikheyev in a top 9 role. When you're healthy, when your lineup is healthy, I think you can get away with one. But
I was really focused on Riley Tuff and Brett Murray. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, I don't know if I like your lineup, man.
That's fair. I don't like it that much either. This is Hachiroku in the chat. Now that's a quads fourth line right there. And then 7th Street Dream. They will never have the puck.
That's closer to an AHL fourth line than it is an NHL fourth line.
Oh man, that's so good. Okay,
and we got Nils Amon's never going to win you a draw. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're going to start every shift without the puck, and then they're never going to be able to get it back.
Just keep grinding, boys. Just keep grinding. Okay, we got the final results of our Bet365 poll here. How do you feel about the Hronek contract? Again, most people saying they like it. On defense, I've got Brendan Dillon signed at 3 million. And then Archer Shelov's 1.1 million. I thought of furthering the meme and going out and just putting Shelov's, be like, yeah, here's a $3 million cap hit for Archer Shelov's, and I traded Demko. But anyways, West Coast 27 in the chat. What is that? And Bugs Cheese said Benning, and then the greater than quads. So good. Okay, let's bring up yours, Harm. Let's bring up yours as we close out this segment. All right, walk us through it.
All right, so keeping the PK strong was a massive priority for me, especially with how much of a bonus when the Canucks PK got going in the playoffs. You could tell what difference it made in at least keeping the special teams battle close. So that's why I re-signed Bluger. That's why I want to bring Connor Brown into the mix. He's also a guy that can step up into the lineup. He's playing well in a third line role in Edmonton right now. So if you run into injuries, I have faith that he can move up the lineup. I've got Danton Heinen there. He scored around 17 goals this year. And part of the reason, like, look, maybe he prices himself out, but this is a guy who has historically, like, look at the last 3 contracts he signed. This past year, 1 year at league minimum. The year before that, 1 year at $1 million. The year before that, $1 million at $1.1 million. So if you give him, let's say, a 2-year deal at $1.25 million per, that's a lot more guaranteed money than he's had in the past. And for that price, he can also kill penalties for you. A reliable two-way guy. He was even spending some time in Boston's top 6. So that's the thought process there. And then I want Dylan to replace some of Zadorov's attributes. And then my guy Blankenberg, who Drance also loves. I think we both fell in love with him at the same time.
I like it. If you're in love with them, I'm in love with them. I might have put them right up there with Riley Tuff and Brett Murray. I like your lineup. I like your lineup a lot. And yeah, no surprise, it's a little bit better than mine. Karan said about mine, he said that fourth line is playing 10 minutes a month.
That's pretty good.
It's a good chirp. Yeah, Blankenberg. I'm seeing a lot of Blankenberg love in the chat as well. So we will see. We'll see what ends up happening on July 1st. And we'll be here all week, July 1st through 5th, to break it all down. But that was a fun segment. I think we got to do more of those, like have people kind of get involved in the show and go over what people submit. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I've got some other ideas for the off season. We don't think we're going to do a show for the rest of this week, folks, but we will be back on Monday. Previewing free agencies. There's probably going to be some stuff by that point. So we'll see what happens. And hey, Cup final. We'll have some answers about the Cup final, hopefully, by Monday. So we will close. Oh no, before we close it out, I almost missed it, but I remembered it's time for our Bet365 bet of the day, brought to you by, you guessed it, Bet365. Tonight, there is a game going on between the Baltimore Orioles and the New York Yankees. Right now, I am taking Garrett Cole in his return to the Yankee rotation to get 7 strikeouts at plus 155. That's what I'm taking. You can go find it over at Bet365. Must be a 90+ play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. And again, remember to use that code VANBONUS when you sign up for an account. But we'll close it out there. For my co-host Harmon Dowell and our technical producer Jacob Lazar, my name's Dave Quadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to the episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.